Hello, my name is Dawn Kutu, and I'm here with Darryl Peasley, and Carol Lake, and Sherry Gould, and we're all part of the Abenaki Trails Project, and we're announcing a new sculpture today. And then I'll put this up so you can see all three of them in the frame here. So I'm going to go ahead and ask these questions, and you guys feel free to pipe in wherever. So let's see, the title of the topic for the sculpture is Ancestors Inspire Modern Abenaki, and it's made possible by a grant from the New Hampshire State Council on the Arts. So first, let's start. Tell me how you've been involved with the Abenaki Trails Project.
You want to start and let people know what it is?
I just want to get something straight. She's the ancestor. I'm the modern.
It's not a contest.
So you guys can take it from there. So.
Real nice.
Well,
And whoever else
Abenaki
wants to
Trails
pitch
was
in.
Darryl's idea. It was Darryl's bright idea to look at some historic sites and try to straighten out some thinking we've been hearing in our work over the previous several decades that New Hampshire was just a pass-through state, and to show that we did live here and we still do. So,
Right.
Nice.
how have we done, Darryl, with that, you think?
Oh, I think people realize we're still here. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
People realize that we lived here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, back in 2010, we were working on a bill for the Commission on Native American Affairs, and we're sitting up in the gallery, and I hear state legislators and senators saying, well, we're never going to recognize the Abenaki because they never lived here. It was just a pass-through state. And it's like,
Really?
what did I just hear? I'm saying to these guys, well, don't let them get away with it. Say something. And so, 10 years later, we're trying to figure out if we want to get involved with another project that was going to be going on. And we came back to Bill and Sherry's house, and I'm like, we have to do something to show the positive things that the Abenaki, the influence that the Abenaki had was a positive thing. It wasn't always negative, yes. The colonials did bad things, we did bad things. But there were some positive things. So Sherry and Bill said, okay, so it's a great idea. Go to your town and see if they'll support us in this project. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I will, but they're not going to support us. Well, then we found out that Hopkinton had already changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, so I was feeling, hey, maybe something's going on here. So
Yeah,
Sherry and I go to the Zoom meeting, and
And we weren't really asking them to do anything.
Yeah.
We were telling them what we were doing.
yeah, we just wanted to give them a heads up
Yeah.
that, if you hear people walking around doing different things, different locations, and the support was overwhelming. And the only thing they asked of us, because we said we're not asking anything of you, it won't cost the town a dime. And so then one of the select persons, she was a lady, said the only thing that I would like to see is include something in your project for the school children.
Ta-da.
Nice. And here
So-
we
Here
are.
we are.
So, and we've centered a lot of our events and programs in Kentucky at the gazebo.
Right.
At Riverside Park.
Right.
And it just feels welcoming that we probably would have put canoes in the river
Right, it's right there.
We've done a couple
yeah.
different canoe trips
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So, and we met Carol there. That was the
Yeah.
first time we met Carol, was right
Yes,
there.
photo
That's right.
shoot.
And that's where the pictures that she took came from.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that the sculpture is based off of.
So,
Nice. That actually answered one of my future questions. So thank you.
2 birds with 1 stone here.
Well done.
Hitting high over here. Now, Carol, as a New Hampshire resident, who you said has spent countless hours in the woods pretending I was Native American, forming small clay pots and spirit animals from wild clay dug by the streams behind the landscape that you called home. That makes me wonder, how did this opportunity come about? I mean, Darryl just said that they met you down at Riverside Park in Kentucky. But maybe tell us a little bit more how
Yeah.
you heard about the project.
So I'm sure
what
I
the
heard about
inspiration
the
was.
projects on it must have been some media outlet. I'm not sure, probably Facebook or the news, or I'm not sure.
Concord Monitor
Where
did
it might
it.
have been.
Yeah,
It might have been the Concord
Yeah.
Monitor story. And I had just come off of an artist in residence program where I was the sculptor for the National Historic Park, St. Gaudens Park. So I was doing a lot of sculpture. And St. Gaudens in particular was known for his bas-relief work. So I was surrounded with the finest bas-relief sculpture in the world that I feel to date has been created. And I got to spend hours touching it, feeling it, looking at it. I got to go into the museum itself and see how he did all these beautiful works. He didn't just do bas-reliefs, but they were certainly what he was known for. So I did a few myself. There's a couple around here. And I was, like I said, I had just been off of that. I just completed that. And I heard about this wonderful project. I said, well, there's an opportunity to have a beautiful bas-relief done by a local artist who could support their project and also support my work. So it just seemed like a win-win for everybody. And that was in 2020. And then, oopsie, things happened.
But
so
at last it's come together.
it has. Thank you to the state, and
Yes.
it's a federal CARES grant as well. So that's where it came from, the
Oh,
funding.
that's wonderful.
So
Through the Arts Council.
through the Arts
Yeah.
Council
Yeah.
and through the national, it's a federal grant. That
Endowment for the Arts.
exactly.
Mhm.
So
I know,
Yeah.
that's pretty incredible.
So,
Yeah.
so we're so happy. I
Yeah.
know I am.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
To get this started.
And the funding
And
and
then we went and I met them and we did a photo shoot, and I got a little bit of better understanding of what the project was all about and what was lacking in this state as far as recognition of the Abenaki
Yeah.
people, and how I could be a little tiny part of helping that. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I'm glad that you've been able to join us on this project too. I mean, Sherry and Darryl are, keeping it going out of their own
Absolutely.
respect.
absolutely.
But it also makes me wonder, what exactly is a bas-relief?
That's a good.
Obviously,
good
it's a type of
question.
sculpture, but
It
can you
is.
tell us a little bit more about it?
I wonder. Let me go grab one. How's that? Hold
Sure.
on. Be right back.
Works for me.
It's easier. It's always easier to show people.
She's grabbing us a sample to see.
Big old sample.
That's
So,
completed.
look at
Nice.
fly. That's great.
Oh.
Welcome to the barn.
you have a beautiful farm.
Thank you.
Aw.
So I don't know if you can see this, but a bas-relief is it's not in the round. It's not sculpture in the round, so it's not three-dimensional, right? Now there's also something that's called a high or an haute relief, which would show even more of the aspects of the three-dimensionality. So this is flat. So how this would really work is that a three-dimensional sculpture right now is crazy expensive, like
Yeah.
crazy. Not that this isn't, but it's much less so. So this is how this one started, and I'll put a process video up as well when we get going. But this is Sherry in traditional regalia, and this is Darryl being the modern example.
And I'm wearing the
Sitting
same
down.
shirt
And
today.
you're wearing the same. Well done.
It's come full circle
I
now.
had to look for it.
Sherry is guiding Darryl as an ancestor, as a representation of an ancestor.
Decades old.
Guiding the modern Abenaki to the future. So that's the concept of it. And it will be written in Braille on the bottom as well,
Yeah.
as in Abenaki, as well as in English. So people with different abilities will be able to enjoy the sculpture as well. And that's the other really good thing. Well, sculpture in the round as well, but any sculpture you can touch, you can feel it, you can understand it on a tactile level as well.
So not like in museums where you can't
No.
touch the
I
art.
want you to touch it, touch it, feel it, understand it.
And people
So-
of different abilities get to see it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
So now I'm wondering which came first, the
The
picture or the bas relief.
So it was their idea. It was there. I said, listen, I'd really love to be part of this project. What would you like to see? And it was Darryl and Sherry's idea.
I think though it was inspired too, Darryl. Remember when we had gone to, the project quickly expanded from Hopkinton because the sites we were looking at crossed town lines because Abenaki people didn't live in boxes.
Yeah.
So,
Like we do.
yeah, but we did stop it once it got to Bradford, Henniker, Warner, and Hopkinton. And said, okay,
You got to
Scope
limit it.
Creek.
Right.
Yeah. We got to be able to function. But we had just gone to Bradford to a meeting of the Bradford Conservation Commission on a farm, and again, it was COVID, it was pandemic, so it was a screened-in porch outdoors, screened in, so we were open air, and Chief Don zoomed in for that meeting. But Darryl had pointed out my grandmother, his Abenaki grandmother, was born on a farm up here somewhere. I've never identified which farm, and it was the Beaton farm we were on, and so he said, what was their name? And Darryl goes, well, it depended. You got to tell her.
Yeah, it depended on what you were looking for. If you were looking for hay or wood, you were looking for Tom Douglas. If you were looking for
Moonshine.
or something illegal, you were looking for Lazardego. So he goes, this is the old Douglas farm.
That was the farm.
And I got goosebumps again just thinking about it. But I'm like, okay, this is my place. Everyone out. I'm reclaiming it because it's the most beautiful
Oh my God, we
place
were
up
sitting
there.
there watching, looking
Yeah.
over the mink hills.
Oh,
It was so
that's
beautiful, and Doug and his wife have done an incredible job renovating
Oh,
and
wonderful.
making it beautiful. And so, yeah, it was, and everybody on the board. They all.
I was like,
belonged.
this is
Yeah.
really, it was weird.
Except
Yeah,
Chief Don
isn't that
couldn't
Yeah, like
hear
goosebumps.
us.
Yeah. Because, I mean, for years and years and years, it was hidden very well. Grandpa didn't talk about Indians. And
Interesting.
we all wondered, why.
Yeah.
And we were always steered to a different part of the family that was obvious. I mean, dark skin, dark hair, got to be Indians. But we weren't. We were just pushed away. And so one day I asked about my grandmother because someone said, you're barking up the wrong tree. You need to look into the Daigle family. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And my aunt went up one side of me and down the other. Her mother was Scottish. I'm like, wicked French accent. They spoke French in the house. And my father would come up with French words every once in a while. I go, they weren't nice words. But I go, where did you learn that? He goes, my mother. And we'd be in the woods, and we, little kids, we're hungry, down cutting cordwood or lumber or something. And he'd reach down and grab us a fern and rinse the root off in the brook and go, here, eat this. I'm like, I'm not eating that. He goes, it tastes like banana. Oh, no, it doesn't. Well, then you start chewing on it, and yes, it does. It tastes just like a banana.
Did it really?
And then he goes, those red berries, eat a bunch of them, the checkerberries, the partridge berries.
The partridge berries.
Yeah.
So I would have asked them as I got older, I go, where did you learn all this stuff from? Well, my mother. So, okay, whatever. And then finally, one of our cousins posted something on Facebook about a family. And I'm like, do you really know anything about them or are you just giving them a hard time? He goes, why do you want to know? So I told him. And he goes, well, unfortunately, we're related on through 4 different lines. So then we start doing this project, and it's like, someone's telling me to keep push. Just keep pushing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you
It would
came
be
up.
this person that's telling you.
Right. Yeah.
And you
I think
came,
she's
you
channeling
came in,
for the
Guiding
older
you
one,
without
so-
you even knowing it.
you came in right after that
Oh,
meeting, and
interesting.
so
Oh,
it was
that's
just like,
interesting. I didn't know that.
I really think that there's this theme.
Well, then we saw, I think it was Brian Schenebert, our tribal historian, had posted, I want to say it's in Canada,
Oh yeah, the
release.
bronze. Yeah.
And I'm like, that is really cool. And he posted it. I think you made a comment.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
did.
that is, that's a really
right.
cool thing. And she, I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's, this is what we're gonna, and then, we're thinking, look, I always worry about funding. And I'm thinking, oh, everyone else raises money, it must be easy to do. Yeah, no, it's not.
Darryl's learned to appreciate so many skills.
Yeah. So at first we were going to do a complete bronze pour relief,
Right.
and she comes back with the price. I'm like,
You know.
Well, and that was before
I think we
metal
can still do it.
skyrocketed.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
10 grand.
and I'm
Oh,
naive. I think we can still do this. I think we can still do this
Yeah,
because I had some
what's
ideas for funding, and start putting it out there, and they're like, yeah, we do a lot of charitable work, but
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
that's. And then the chief of police in town gets in touch with me and says, you need to go ask these people. Well, it's an elderly couple that have donated millions of dollars to different projects in town. Unfortunately, they had passed away,
Oh.
and so their children still
Sure.
do charitable work.
Yeah.
I don't like asking someone I don't know. I knew Mr. and Mrs.,
Right.
but I don't know the kids.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of standoffish. And then
But
did a
then
couple.
Carol,
Yeah, then she came up with a different product.
Connects.
And
Yeah.
I always fall back to my oldest son because he's a crafty person and does
Yeah.
all kinds of different things with different craft stuff. So I asked him, "You ever heard of this stuff?" He goes, "Oh yeah, it's really cool. And if she does it this way, you can do tons of these things." I'm like,
That's true.
I go,
Nice.
"Is it expensive?" He goes, "Well, it depends on the process she's going to use."
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, we can probably afford this." And then she came up with a price. Yes, we can afford this. And it's like, okay, we can do the
Right.
material
Right.
things. And then she was able to.
And then this
I don't know
grant
how many people
appeared.
she had to beat up to get this grant. But the week or two that you were writing the grant, it
Yeah.
was like, really? Another message from Carol? What does she want now? You know?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And then all of a sudden she says she's writing a grant. I go, well, when did this happen? Because whenever Sherry's writing a grant, she'll ask a bunch of questions, but you know she's doing a grant,
Right.
so you know what she's up to.
Right.
I didn't realize that Carol was going for a grant.
Yeah, that was
Just very curious.
snowplow season.
And that was so
Yeah,
classy.
Distracted, yeah.
Yeah.
Understandably. So, yeah, the state grant came available due to COVID. It's a way to help artists of all different types, dancers and musicians, as well as fine artists, get back to work,
Right.
basically.
And
So,
your focus on working with children and
Yeah.
education and wanting to do a lot of live streaming like this so that kids in the classroom
yes.
was so exciting to us. For, as Darryl said,
Right.
we know that there's a lot of interest in, because kids in our schools have had to go far away to learn
Yeah.
about what was known. And that's been one of the fascinating things about Abenaki Trails is that there's a lot of information about Native history, not a lot, but more, on the coast,
Mm-hmm.
the Merrimack River
Right.
to some extent, the mountains to some extent, and the Connecticut River Valley. But that space from Hopkinton to Sunapee to Monadnock that we've kind of identified that we work in is really a black hole of information. And so by pulling from a lot of different sources, we're pulling out a lot of the history and then applying our tribal knowledge and stories to fill it out. But having Carol be able to do this and to make it so public, I think is really,
Right.
really important.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, that was the other part about the project. We were honest from the beginning. There are myths out there that we've heard for years, generations growing up. And,
Like creation myths.
well, no, in Kentucky.
Indian chimney,
There
was
they
this-
tied their ponies up in
there's
the
Indian
ledges.
chimney.
Oh.
Yeah, there's an Indian chimney out in the middle of the woods by Clough Pond. And actually the last owner that just sold it to the Greek Orthodox Church set aside an acre around this chimney in the deed that it can't be developed because of this Indian chimney. Now, some of my best friends, and one of them was probably going to be listening at some point or another, we have 3 different archaeologists that are working with us. And the most prolific one is Dr. Goodby, Bob Goodby, and convinced him, we need to go look at this thing. He goes, oh yeah, absolutely. So, and I found out how ethical these archaeologists are. We was just going to go out in the woods and look at this thing. I had a cop that was going to take us out there, and he calls me up the day before and goes, now do we have landowner permission to be there? I go, we're going out with a cop. He goes, yeah, I don't really care about that. I want landowners' permission to be there, Darryl. Okay. So we got the caretaker to take us out. And I mean, he's shown us all around. They've done a beautiful job of a place that used to be called Camp Merrimack. But he had artifacts that Bob was able to, oh yeah, that's what this is, that's what this is. But anyways, we get up into the woods, and Bob's looking at it, and I'm like, what's the matter? He goes, I have no idea what this thing is. And that's his specialty, is stone, Native American stone structures and stuff. So we were there for a good 45 minutes looking around. And I backed up and tripped into a hole. He goes, oh, I know what it is now. I'm going, yeah, the fat guy's burial ground, right? He goes, no. See all the stone walls in the area? Well, the English sheep farmers subsidized their income by making charcoal. So
it was a chimney for the...
Yeah.
It was a, and it's really not even a chimney. It's just a big hearth going up. So my best friend, once I posted on Facebook, hey, we busted the Smith. And he's like, thanks a lot, you idiot. I grew up thinking, but then he rationalized about, well, there were Indians in the area, and they probably used that at one point in time.
There you go.
Yeah, well, they may have, but it's not a chimney.
Right.
You know, and then Dr. Clark says, oh, well, if you just asked, I was out there with David Stewart Smith a couple of years ago. Would have been nice, and see, that's the problem. No one was sharing.
Right.
But now,
And documenting.
everybody is sharing the information, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's what we wanted, you know. And we said from the beginning, there are going to be things that everyone's going to be all excited about, and there are going to be things that some of us may not want to retell the story. But we have.
Yeah.
We have retold the story.
So let me ask each of you, just if we look at it from the personal side, what are you looking forward to the most about this project? You know, it can be something grand, saving the world, or it can be like more personal, like what you're really excited about.
At least for me, I just want people to realize that the Abenaki were here. They were here first, and they tried to reclaim their land from it being stolen from them. So yes, they did not so great things, but there are those other things that they, if it weren't for them, a lot of the colonials would have perished. And there were some towns that they helped them. That's why they were never attacked. And some of the captive stories are unbelievable. How they, as older adults, come back and, oh, I was treated very well. I was treated better by them than I was my own family.
And some didn't want to come back.
Yeah, and some didn't come back. But, and I just want people to understand that, okay, we're not trying to glorify what they did or what they didn't do, but I also want people to realize that we're still here.
And we're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. And a lot of us do a lot of good in the community even today. You know, and if it weren't for some of us, then wouldn't be able to travel on the roads in the wintertime.
Especially, Sherry, did you want to add in something you're
I
excited
think
about?
pretty much the same. It's that for me, history has always been really important. I'm a genealogist, and I love reading the old records. Right now, I've been reading old parish registers from Quebec in French, written in the 17 and 1800s, and I just love doing that kind of thing, and finding little nuggets in obscure places that that people don't know about. So there's that part, and in this one, I'm also I have a touch of dyslexia, so I'm very tactile and experiential learner. So being able to read the land and being able to walk into these spaces. So one of my favorite examples is Indian Tie-Up, which is only a couple miles from my house. And,
Straight up.
Yeah, so Darryl and I, because everybody has always known we were Native American, we've been told these stories our whole lives from people in the community, old timers. Mostly asked, what do you think about that? What does that mean? What is it? Like we carry some, yeah.
Oh, I have to touch it first.
Yeah.
Then I can tell you exactly what it is.
right?
But what we didn't realize is that other people, the general public, didn't all know these stories. So as we sat together and said, yeah, there's that farm over there where they dug up all the artifacts, there's the Indian Tie-Up, there's Lake Massasiko, there's Bradford Springs, there's all these places. the Indian tie-up. So the story was that it was a place where the Abenaki wintered after summering on Lake Massasauga. And I'm like, I had never been there, 2 miles from my house, never been there, but I own ledges in the Mink Hills, 200 acres of it, and I'm like, pretty sure I know what the terrain is without climbing up it, and I wouldn't spend the winters in a three-sided open ledge.
No?
Would you? And they're like, no. And I go, they're at least as smart as you are. And then the other story, I'm like, tie up. What were they tying up?
Right.
Nobody was tying Indians up. They were killing them. What were they tying up? It was, their ponies. I go, we didn't ride ponies. It was never tying up their ponies. So the only thing I could ever think of for decades was maybe they were hanging their meat. Until we walked there.
Nobody's going to do
There's
that.
no place to hang me.
And you're not going to lug a
walk
moose
right.
up a straight up ledge.
There was a lot of moose sign in the area.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
that
moose
day.
around, yeah.
But I mean,
But you're not going to haul it up that ledge. Even when you were strong and with your brute strength, you wouldn't haul that up there. So then we realized, captives. The Indians were taking captives, securing them, and this was an part of the Indian Trail on the way to Canada from the southern towns. Oh, and then you look in the history of Henniker, and the settlers were giving aid. They were sheltering and giving provisions to the warriors, and in exchange, the town was never attacked. And then further down, we get introduced to, I don't remember her name, a wonderful woman in Maine who wrote a really great book about the captive stories, about how men wrote those stories using a woman's voice. And she uses the word drag. Oh, this is horrible. I'll post a link to it on the Facebook page afterwards. Anyway, she's a wonderful author, and she was explaining how the Quakers have a very different relationship in the captive stories than the English. And that you can hear that even though men wrote it in a woman's voice, the women, there's a difference there, and it matters. Henniker was settled by and large by Quakers. So it's just this kind of piling on of the story that I love about this project.
So many layers.
and I'm thinking that on the way up from Massachusetts, the colonials that got captive are crying and whining. And so the Abenaki going, yeah, you want something to cry and whine about? You're about to get it. You're going to climb that hill. And you're going to go up to that big rock, and you're going to freeze your butt off all night long. Well, when we got there, it was like, they were, because before the trip, there was a lot of hype. So people have found old pictures of, Indian tie-up. And it looked like it was a cavern in this rock, because it looked like there were a bunch of guys standing in the cavern. So we get there, and it is a massive boulder. It's huge,
And it leans.
you couldn't get out of the rain if you wanted to. There's no place to go. It's a big, massive hearth. I mean, it's as bigger than this building that we're in, this barn that we're in.
There was an overhang, but if the wind was blowing, you would.
And you can tell there's been a fire there for years and years, because now people had cut some trees down and they had a fire there.
Right.
But it's got to be, and we do want to go there again someday and look around with an archaeologist that knows exactly, or
Bob's open to that, and the landowner is open to it, and we just have to nail it down in our voluminous spare time.
Yeah.
Nail down the details. But that'd be another future.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, Carol, I just wanted to give you a chance to hop in here too.
Just briefly, I will say that I feel an artist's job is to communicate, and my goal is to spark conversations like we're having today. That's what it is among everybody, to increase awareness of the Abenaki people and where they were and where they are now and where they're going to be. And that's really what it's all about for me, is sharing an artistic representation of that with people, and also, as sort of a side note, to encourage artistic expression and to encourage other people to consider what it is to make art, how you make art, how really it's not rocket science, and I'm happy to teach anybody who wants to learn, whether they're 5 years old or 95. So maybe we'll do a project with that as well. So.
Nice.
And I know you've invited Vicki Blanchard.
Yes, that's our next
yes.
Facebook Live is with Vicki Blanchard, an Abenaki craftsperson who works specifically with clay, and I can't wait to see her work because it's
I know,
gorgeous.
me either.
But I want to hear her interpretation of what the Abenaki people did with the wild clay, the native clay that was here as well. So
Now, I have to ask you, is it wild clay that you used for this? Or
Well,
just regular?
I am exploring wild clay, and that's a whole other tangent. My brother lives on a lake in Maine, and he keeps encouraging me to use the clay that's because he says it makes a mess. I don't want it. Get rid of it. So I do have some, and I'm learning. And if anybody has any information about local clay that is accessible, and you got to be careful because sometimes it's on public land, and they don't want you to disturb the clay there, which I totally understand. But if there's some way to access local native clay, I would love to use it, incorporate it into it. So this is actually clay that is from Western Massachusetts. So kind
Nice. Completely local.
So yeah,
Oh, I love that.
absolutely.
And Vicki's exploring that too, so you guys will have a wonderful conversation about
I look
that.
forward to that. And I should add that this won't remain clay, that this will actually be molded, and then it's a type of resin, but we also use bronze powder, actual bronze, so that when it comes out of the mold, it will carry a patina, just like a normal bronze would, and you'll be able to, it will be lighter than a regular bronze, and it also won't cost quite as much.
Yeah.
Or
So,
the
or
rash of
tempted,
thieves
right,
that
right,
we've been
exactly.
experiencing.
So this will be, it will look as though it is bronze because it will have bronze in it. It just won't be pure metal. That's all.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And is there anything else in the remainder of this process that is worth mentioning?
So it will be placed, from what I understand, at what's the name of the park?
Llewellyn?
Is it Llewellyn Park in Contoocook?
No, it's Riverway.
Rivers?
Riverway.
Riverway. Forgive me.
Oh.
And I don't know, do we have official, hi Neil, do we have official permission?
I don't know yet.
Well, I know that they're rehabbing the park. They're
Right, and
doing
we've had the
some-
conversations, but I don't
I
know
don't
that
think
we've
that
actually
anyone has,
put the
we've
proposal
met,
in, and we need
But
to do that.
hint, we'll be calling. And if there are any donors out there that would like to be part of the project,
Absolutely.
I know it's a shameful plug, but
Not at all. Not at all.
we could still use a little help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not gonna cost us the $10,000 that we had
Yeah.
thought it was going to,
But we do need to get a stone that it's gonna be mounted
Right.
on and
Right.
get that placed and all that,
So even if you own a granite company and you're originally from
Hint,
Kentucky, maybe reach out. We're easy to find, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, that's good. Now, what would you like out of everyone who comes to the park, once it's completed, people who are watching the process unfold now, what's one thing that you want them to come away with?
appreciation for the inspiration and the work of Abenaki people historically and today.
Yeah,
Nice.
couldn't say
What she
it
said.
Yeah.
Couldn't say it any
Ditto.
better.
Yeah.
And, maybe someone will go and find out about Woodwell's Garrison or Putney Hill, right there in Kentucky.
Nice.
There's a lot of stories to unfold.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the collaboration between Carol and Abenaki Trails exemplifies the kind of cooperation Darryl was referring to earlier, that cooperation
Yeah.
existed back then and it continues right through to today.
I was just gonna ask something about that too. It's almost like you guys are getting back to your roots through this project, right?
It's been phenomenal. We have some really great community partners.
Allies, yeah.
The Hawkinton Historical Society, Heather and Nancy Joe, Warner Historical Society with Dr. Clark, Bob Goodby. I mean, he gives his time well, everyone, it's a completely volunteer thing.
NEC,
Yeah.
Colby Sawyer, Kearsarge
Colby
Food
Sawyer
Hub,
was
Mount
huge
Kearsarge
last
Indian
year.
Museum.
Because it's called the Abenaki
Zach
Trails
Valley.
Project, but out of the main project, we've got probably a dozen different smaller projects.
Right.
I look at
Yeah.
the project we're doing with Carol with her, I mean, that was a huge blessing coming out of the project, that she saw the Concord Monitor or Facebook. NEC sponsored an art show last year for all of us. Colby Sawyer, we started at the tail end of the season last year, we started a cider project. Colby Sawyer was instrumental in, well, not only giving us produce all summer long, but
Right.
suburban load of apples.
Right.
And then more, because Sherry and Tara, I think, went and
Yeah.
picked more apples that day. We made 60 gallons of cider, and we're gonna renew that effort earlier this year, so we can make more.
Right.
And also out of the project has come a basket apprenticeship for me through Bill Gould.
Yeah.
So that was a huge thing.
The
New Hampshire
food
Council,
pantry.
yeah, we have a food pantry.
Bill making the birch bark canoes, Vicki rediscovering the pots. So glad that's going to be.
We have a seed project going on.
Yep, Kearsarge Food Hub.
And
We're doing
it's funny because when we
farmers
first got here, Carol said, "Oh, you guys are doing so much. You guys are so busy." And I'm like,
Yep.
"Yep, some days it's a little too busy, and I'm afraid that when I retire, it's just gonna eat up my life."
Yeah, how do you have
But,
time to work?
It might.
though?
I know. It's not easy.
Oh. Nice.
Where'd the boss go? I don't know. So, but yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride for the past couple of years, and it's I keep saying joking like I get blamed for the project, but it's taken up 8 people's lives.
Yeah.
pretty
So
much.
far.
So it's not just my fault.
Just you.
But out of the project, we have had other things, and we were getting yelled at last year because Bill and I just announced quickly on our chat, "Hey, we're doing cider tomorrow. You want to be at my house by then?" Well, no one showed. So someone's yelling at us. Well, if you guys weren't the Lone Rangers, and we let people know. So then the following weekend, we collaborated a little bit more, and
Good.
we had a family band gathering. I mean,
My mom.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Izzy was there, my girlfriend, and it was just there were people all over the yard, but everyone's busy. Everyone's, and it was funny because you see them all working, and you see them scrambling to their cars with jugs of cider. And it was awesome. It's like, "Oh, this is cool. This is really cool." So then someone says, "Well, how'd you come up with this idea?" I go, "Well, it was kind of weird because I'm looking at cider presses, and then Bill calls me and goes, 'Hey, what do you think about making some cider?'"
And it fit with the food pantry,
Right.
it fit with
Yeah.
gathering,
So, yeah,
and it
we
fit
put-
with
we put it-
community.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things.
Yeah.
And so then someone goes, "Well, how do you come up with all these ideas?" "Oh, I'm an idea guy. I just don't know how to execute the idea." So
with you there.
That's why there's 8 of us.
I've
working.
got got tons of ideas, and some of them are a lot better than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but one of the better ideas that we all had was to work on the project, and I believe we've made everyone aware of the Abenaki,
Yeah.
past, present, and our future.
Yeah.
So.
Excellent. So we're pretty much wrapping up at this point. Now, I can't remember if I asked this already or if we addressed it.
Your name is Dawn.
Oh, no. I know that part. Opposite of dusk. Now, are we all members? Excuse me. Are we all members of the Abenaki Nullhegan band?
Well, I'm not, but I'm a wannabe, but no.
You're still welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you're
Thank
a
you.
wonderful ally.
Peripheral.
Yeah.
And yes, I am. I am the Ashley Special Projects genealogist for the Nullhegan.
Yeah.
And I'm an enrolled citizen of the Nullhegan tribe. I'm on the AHA board, Abenaki Helping Abenaki.
Oh, nice.
So,
Uh-huh. I like it.
Aha. Especially for him.
Yeah.
Like, aha, I have a great idea. So very appropriate.
And
Yes,
And oh yes, and I'm also a newly discovered member of the Nullhegan band. Just got my tribal card the other day.
yay! But your
feels
dad's
good.
been a member for a
Oh
long
yeah,
time.
I don't
yes.
even know how long.
Yes.
So yeah, he's been very involved too.
Yes.
Now, are there any last remarks that you'd like to add? Maybe something that we haven't covered yet, or you want?
We have to be in
Our
Gorham in
watchers
2.5 hours.
Yeah, we're going to Darryl and I are off to speak to the AMC Club.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
nice.
That's great.
Well,
did
good
last
luck and
year.
have fun.
Good.
And it's a lot further this year than it was last year. I hope we don't get lost.
Yeah.
That's why you drive.
Yeah.
No, that's it. All right, so let me just do the wrap up here.
Okay.
Everybody say bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for being here with us. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to you guys for joining us here today. And come back again soon to our Facebook page. That's Abenaki Trails Project. Because on June 15th, like Carol mentioned, we're doing our second live stream. And that's going to feature artist Vicki Blanchard, who also Blanchard, excuse me, who is also working with clay. So it should be a good conversation. And yeah, all right, we'll see you then. Bye.